Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of the Daily Fix. I am your usual host and presenter, Advocate Loyani. Guys, I call you guys today. The youth of today, they all call each other guys. Nowadays, we never call each other guys, we used to call each other ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, I've got some very interesting news at midday today. I've just been talking to one of the defense lawyers in the Meyiwa trial. And he said to me, Advocate, please don't disclose my name because I know you run a YouTube channel called The Daily Fix. You can talk about this news, but don't mention my name. Well, I'll respect that, Advocate. I'll respect that. And I'm glad that you gave me this news. The news that I have for you at this time is that Warrant Officer Makubu is going to testify for the defense. I have always been asking this particular gentleman, when is Makubu coming on board? You know, Makubu opened 375, and we have been talking about 375, I don't know for how long, and people are just waiting to hear what Makubu is going to say. So this gentleman has informed me that a warrant officer Makubu will be coming on board. Now, let us just recap what Makubu is all about. Warrant Officer Makhubo opened docket 375, the docket that says there were no intruders into that house in 2019, 5 years after the murder of Senzo Meyiwa. This is how the existence of a second docket in the Senzo Meyiwa trial came into existence. Because in 2014, when 636 was opened, there were differences between investigators. Remember, Gininda has testified about this to say that investigators went their own different ways. So Gininda and company remained with the intruder theory of 636. And people like Warrant Officer Makubu and the late Brigadier Ndovu then went ahead to pursue their own investigation as per the evidence that they found on the scene or in and around the scene. One of the most disturbing things was that the scene had been tampered with. So Warrant Officer Makubu is on the way to the Pretoria High Court. He has already been there, remember? This will be his second time, but this time it is going to be very significant because he'll be testifying on behalf of the defense. Now, what will the impact of that evidence be? The impact of that evidence will be Makubu will virtually be telling the judge that, Judge, look, here you are trying people, or here you are trying these 5 people with the murder of Senzo Meyiwa. I was an investigator in that case. And Ramadan Officer Makubu's, mandate as an investigator has not been terminated. He still remains an investigator even today. He is going to come up before that case and say, there were differences. There were those people who pursued docket 636. And the evidence that we collected as investigators, as another set of investigators, pointed to the fact that there had been no intruders into that house because we started the investigation in the house. We did not buy the intruder theory that, people had burst into that house and, robbed Kelly Kumalo of a cell phone and ended up shooting Senzo Meyiwa. We just did not buy that because our investigations revealed otherwise. So that is in essence what Warrant Officer Makhubo will be there for, to come and tell us, the other version that we have been waiting for. And let us recall that Warrant Officer Makhubo is a very troubled man, like all other people associated with 375, have had all sorts of problems. Warrant Officer Makubu has had his life threatened, to start with. He has had his house broken into. As a way to intimidate him, we are not really sure what those who broke into his house were looking for. But there's been that, atmosphere of intimidation around Warrant Officer Makhubo. And interestingly, when he comes forward, he will be, corroborating all that I've been saying on the Daily Fix. All that the other investigators like Constable Kapadim has been telling me. That investigation simply went wrong because people like Musia, right, never conducted a proper investigation. The scene was not cordoned off. People walked in and out of that house. They were just fed a narrative that somebody with dreadlocks had walked into that house, ended up shooting Senzo Meyiwa, or two people rather, that walked into that house, ended up robbing a cell phone and killing Senzo Meyiwa. And then the police were sent on a wild goose chase to places like KZN. Remember how Constable Kapadim has always been saying, they then left some 3 days after Senzo was killed to KZN. They went to Nongoma, right? And when they got there, they found this man with dreadlocks. That unfortunate story that, the intruder had dreadlocks, right? And they simply arrested, they were out to arrest anybody who had dreadlocks. I wonder how many people in South Africa had dreadlocks. So for once and for all, it will be very interesting to see how the court is going to treat the evidence of Warrant Officer Makubu, and then let us see how the court just juxtaposes it with the other version. Because now we are going to see two versions collide. We're going to see the collision of two versions. Now, once the two versions collide, then it's a question of, do we have the real people in that dog? Are these the real people that we must be charging here? I mean, Gininda, by his own version, is contradicting himself because he's saying, now Kedi Kumalo is the mastermind. Discrediting his own version because initially there was no mastermind in this thing. All of a sudden, Gininda throws a mastermind in front of the court. Does not arrest the mastermind. Why tell us about a mastermind that you're not going to arrest? What was the value of that? Why tell us all that when you're going to take no action against the mastermind? So, Warrant Officer Makubu is coming up now to discredit all this version, which has already discredited itself because 636 is being discredited by its own makers because it was made up. Its own makers and creators have destroyed it. Now, Warrant Officer Makubu will be nailing the final coffin in 636. Let us look forward to the defense case. Guys, or ladies and gentlemen, let us look forward to the defense case and see how he testifies. But basically, what he's going to do is to rubbish the intruder theory. Right? The court will then have to make a determination. And I bet that determination will say, how are these people before this court? If that court is anything to go by, or does what you expect it to do, the guilt of those people sitting in the Pretoria High Court must not be in doubt. And Makubu is placing it in doubt. Now, where does it all go? It all goes to Gininda and Balowi. What were they doing? Just what were they doing? Having said that, let me thank you for watching this video and all the other videos that you've watched and all the subscriptions, and please have a nice day.